sweet navy aviator jacket on,
You're
just for the
looking
occasion.
sharp.
Oh, mate, this is literally just what I wear to the office every day.
This old thing.
Oh, this thing?
From my days in the military, from back when I was flying.
Yeah. Brews. Brews.
Welcome everyone to the Bizora podcast. I'm your host Adam, and welcome back to the Accounting Founder Series. Today with us we have three founders who have been building in the space, who are atypical for the typical accounting founder. They've come in, but they've built great products. And with us we have Blaze from Byron, Camden from Ping, and then Dan from Truss. We're gonna start off with talking with Camden. Camden, when you and I met, you told me that you had been a BC before and you wanted to build in the space just to prove that how you wanted to take life on hard mode and start being a founder again. At the same time, you recently, congratulations on your birth of your son. And with that, you're now doing extreme hard mode. Why go from a VC to start building in the space? And how has it been going so far?
Well, I'm glad I'm the first one to start, so we can start low and then just each one after us can build better and better. So yeah, no, it's been awesome. Thank you. Having a new baby has increased the difficulty of life. I as assumed, but and you don't know it until you really are in it. And sleep is a precious resource. But yeah, so my career started at a company called Divvy. Divvy was spend management back when spend management wasn't really a thing. We were pretty proud of what we were doing. I was the first intern there, and I just earned my way up the ranks of earning more and more respect. And we started this, there's the beginning of this partnership program that was working with accounting firms. And they put us in the back. They seemed like it was a lot of work to why would you work with accountants to then help businesses? And the leadership didn't fully understand. And I'm actually the son of a CPA that I always joke, he turned to the dark side though. So he's in wealth management, but he is a CPA. And I've been around accountants most of my life. And I was like, I don't know, I feel like it's going to be pretty successful. So I put all of my chips in on standing up this partnership program. And we started working with firms from across the country. And it was awesome. We saw some serious success. I was actually still in school at the time, studying accounting actually, dropped out. So I'm an almost accounting graduate, and then went all in at Divvy. Divvy later got acquired by Bill.com and was at Bill for a little bit, but realized I don't like working at large companies. So I left Bill and started a venture fund with two other partners. They were very much the people who knew what they were doing. And I was just the young gun that was willing to work hard and to get some stuff done. And you're going to hear from Blaze in a second, who has a much deeper investment background than I do. It's embarrassing comparatively, but we raised $100 million to go invest in early stage technology, and it was fun, and it was really fun. But I quickly learned that building technology is a lot more engaging and fun than investing in it. And so I took a step back. So actually I sold off all of my carried interest and all of the equity I had in the firm, so I could go all in on Ping, and I've been hanging out ever since, and it's been a party.
And then how did you make the decision on building specifically at the note-taking space instead of doing the compliance, the planning, the advisory, or data intake?
Yeah, so for us, note-taking was very much the first rung in the ladder. We saw that it was just a very easy way to enter into the accounting market. There weren't really note takers for accountants at the time. And I mean, we'll talk about this later, I'm sure. But the funny thing is I build a note taker, and I'm one of the first people to say, I don't ever look at my notes. It's almost irrelevant, right? Notes are just another paragraph novel to read, and that's not super interesting to me. It's what you can do with that data. And we found my hypothesis, and it's becoming true. I mean, we have Truss that helps. We have Byron that helps. The compliance work is going to be automated to some level from 0 to full, right? And we have some really smart people building to fix that. But what that's going to enable is people talking to their clients more. And I was like, oh, well, if people are going to be talking to their clients more, we should build a tool that helps them talk to their clients more. And so since then, we've built a lot of other tooling that helps find revenue opportunities, helps with different, administrative tasks. But the whole bet was there's really smart people trying to solve compliance work, and people are going to have to step into advisory and talking to their clients. So we wanted to be in that race.
And then how do you guys think about like physical meetings? And because most conversations maybe happen over dinner or coffee, like where does your hypothesis sit over there on capturing that context?
Yeah, so we capture that already. So we have a phone app. You can record it on your computer, or phone calls or Slacks, or really any communication that you're having with your client, Ping is capturing. So I mean, the answer is we think it's important to capture.
Okay, perfect. All right. So then moving to the next rung in the ladder, we'll go to Dan. Dan, you guys do from Truss is like to start with the document intake process, which is like one of the biggest hurdles for tax professionals. When you were building, why did you think like, where did you identify like, hey, I want to build in here? But at the same time, you went through many different iterations of Truss on where you like are ended up here. And you have a really unique story from like what I've heard from people on how it was the typical founder journey and you bootstrapped it to like this successful product. It's Jason Stack's like recommended product to go for in document intake. Let us hear that story from you.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love this podcast that you're doing, Adam. Totally inspired by this. This is great, and thanks for having me on. I mean, the reason I got into accounting is because it's super sexy. So, I mean, like, who doesn't want to be in accounting, right?
Yeah.
And really, the reason I got into accounting is because I saw actually kind of an industry outsider, as you mentioned, a little bit of a Cinderella story. And the reason I chose accounting was because I saw just how little love accountants got. I had been developing a product to solve that client interaction problem because I was on the front lines and understood that deeply. I was on the front lines interacting with clients in other aspects of finance, kind of like Camden, a little bit of background in investment advisory, had my Series 65 before that in the deep, dark, dank basement of finance and mortgage, and really experiencing, I kind of came up during the digital transformation, if you remember that, like in the early 2010s, right? That we were being promised the nirvana that like everything, because it started out at that time, everything was paper, folders floating around the office. And we're being promised the nirvana of this like, you know, oh, it's all going to be on portals and clients are going to use it and it's going to be amazing. And then that just never materialized, right? Life got worse. It got harder along the way. And as I was kind of waiting for the next portal and the next portal and the next portal to solve the problem, finally realized, you know, portals are not solving this problem. And so, I finally reached the point where I was like, all right, I'm probably the least qualified person around to solve this problem, but somebody's got to do it. And so it was kind of one of those moments where I jumped in and took the bull by the horns and started building. And as, you know, through a series of miracles and a lot of kindness from a lot of people, have now, you know, built a profitable, bootstrap company without outside funding, without outside capital, again, by a series of miracles. So you had like 3 questions in there. So I feel like I missed 2 of them.
So we talked about the journey over there. What I was really interested in Trust is like how you guys think about like launching new products and like partnerships, because I feel like you guys are like one of the most collaborative like applications out there and like the firms out there in this space. What made the decision and how does that like reach out to like, what is like your thesis behind it?
Yeah, I think the legacy products, the legacy softwares in the space are very territorial, unfortunately, and it's really harmed the industry. And that's very apparent to everybody. How much it's holding things back is the lack of collaboration. If we're truly doing what's in the best interest of our users and the industry and their clients as well, we're going to collaborate. We're going to work together. We're going to make our softwares work together. And so, for instance, both Blaze and Camden, we all partner here. You know, we're helping to try to we can't do this alone. There's a huge transition coming in the industry where we have to make the move from compliance to advisory. It's the same thing that happened in the financial industry and the wealth advisory industry, about a decade ago when robo-advisors started coming out. You remember that, Camden, when the robo-advisors were coming out and everybody was running around doing a lot of hand waving saying, what is it going to mean to be a wealth advisor anymore? Robo-advisors are going to come take all the jobs. And we saw the pattern there of what transpired is that ultimately the wealth advisors that survived and protected because there was a major margin compression that happened for those that weren't providing value to their clients, weren't providing the actual advisory. And we have the same thing that's going to happen here in this industry now, about 10 to 15 years later, is that the industry has to make the move to raise the level of value that we're offering to clients, to offer the advisory that clients that actually we as accountants got into the profession to help people, right? And they had the original vision of being that advisor, being that trusted source. And really it's kind of devolved into this, very administrative role, unfortunately. And so, but we can't do this transition alone, right? I need for instance, Ping, it's peanut butter and jelly between what we do. Ping is helping to pull in the client context, so that way we can surface those advisory opportunities, right? And same with what Byron is doing. Byron is playing a part there to help eliminate all of that, data entry, just the monotony, the tedium part of it that's not actually adding value to what your clients are paying you to do. And so together, all three of us, where we bring the client experience at Truss, helping lower the friction and increase client adoption and improve the experience. And then with Byron doing their part and Ping doing their part, we can't do these things alone. We have to work together as an industry. That seems like a super obvious to me. And I think to, Blaze and Camden here as well.
Perfect. And now with that, moving on to Blaze, you built Byron to handle the compliance piece in this jigsaw puzzle. But you have as with Camden, you had a VC background, originally from Australia, then you bike rode all the way through the continent, all the way through London. I don't know how you did the ocean part, but
continent of Africa is probably worth dropping in there.
Okay, perfect. So you did that, and then you became a VC at City Ventures. You led the funding in some of the biggest companies out there that are household names. Where was that light bulb moment where I want to go ahead and build a tax compliance or AI tax?
I studied accounting in undergrad, and so I'd always thought I was going to become an accountant, and I ended up joining Credit Suisse on their investment banking team. And I spent a couple of years at Credit Suisse, and the whole time there was just taking random PDF documents and trying to get them into Excel spreadsheets. And I used to just spend all of my time doing this and thought there must be a better way to solve this problem. And I ended up living with some startup founders for a while in Sydney and was really wanting to start a business then, and decided ultimately that I wanted to do it in the US. And so I moved over to the US and I did my master's in computer science so I could learn to code at U Chicago. And you get there and you're oh, cool, I'm at business school, I'll think of a business idea. And it's the worst place in the world to think of a business idea. The only idea you have is what's the next travel app I could book? Because that's the only problem you face. Being unsure, you don't really want to go and build something unless you have a passionate about that problem or those things. You're dedicating so much of your life to it. And so you do what everyone does when they have no idea what to do. And startups, you go and become a venture capitalist and you go and pontificate about the future. But I always I really loved coding. I really had a desire to build something. And I was investing in all these AI companies. The first investment I made was a company called Deepgram in 2020 that was powering voice applications with transformers. And we were seeing a lot of the stuff that was happening there. And I increasingly started being okay, I'm going to do something. This is the time to do something. And one of the problems that it was getting PDFs into Excel and just getting 10 different Excel documents sent to me and trying to get them into a singular financial model or style. Had been these two things that had been these overarching problems throughout my career. And when I saw what LLMs could do with Excels and started to see the early stuff that was happening there, I was maybe we could actually build something that could really transform the way that you manipulate and bring Excel documents together. And that led to the idea that we wanted to build a product for finance professionals. And ultimately, as we did more and more work on that and talked to more and more friends, just discovered that this problem that I'd been facing was just a much more acute problem for accountants, and they had way less tooling. And especially on the business tax side, they had almost no tooling. And so we set out to try and build that last year. And honestly, we just couldn't get it to work. We were trying to get it to work, and the LLMs just weren't quite there. We couldn't get the accuracy on it. And at the same time, we'd built a document processing pipeline because we knew we'd need to process things like K1s into these returns. And believe it or not, we were explaining this to Dan at a conference, or my coworker was, and Dan said, if you guys can do that, I'll put you on my platform. And we were what? And we had one customer at this point in time, and Dan's yeah, I'll do a test of your product, and if it works, we'll use it. And we tested it on his product, and he was wow, this works really well. And we had built a document processing pipe to do 1040 returns really well. And so we ended up partnering with Dan for part of his AI prep, which has been an amazing partnership for us because, he has this amazing customer base. These documents come in and we can help them do this compliance piece. And then we've been since then building business tax products this year because, the LLMs really caught up and you can now just do some incredible things that just weren't possible 6 months ago because the technology wasn't really there. But really, I've just had a desire to build something for a long time. And I think like Camden, like VCs, like I would call it I used to joke that it was a part-time job and it was a very nice lifestyle and it was a lot of things, but it's this point in time is just so interesting with what's going on with AI that it felt like if I missed this, I'd miss my once in a lifetime opportunity where I was like the right age and the technology was here and there was like incredibly fun and interesting things to build. And we are just incredibly interested as a firm building like long running agents that can do processes like end to end and really take that monotonous data entry sort of work off people, enable them to spend more time on the things that the other people have been talking about, like advisory and those sorts of things. We think AI is going to play a very important role in giving just much better client service to customers than the accountants have time to give them today.
Okay, and then with Byron, you guys do all 1040s, 1120s, 1065s, K1s, the entire gambit of the process?
Yeah, we are doing most of the process today. And so, yeah, it's been fun.
You're based in SF, you're like really close to the heart of like where all the AI labs are, and how do you see with all the technology and the AI implementation that's happening in the space, how do you see like maybe 12 months from now or 18 months from now, because it changes so fast, how are you seeing the accounting tech space going to change over the next 6 to 12 months?
I think that the accounting tech space is still pretty nascent compared to many other markets. So if you look at something like legal, when you've got Harvey and Legora, accounting doesn't have a Harvey or Legora sort of company today. And the reason for that is that LLMs are incredibly good. Original LLMs are incredibly good at search and summarization. That was a perfect problem for legal. Whereas accounting, you needed a level of accuracy that was a lot higher to bring agents into those processes and get them to take off. And I think that over the last couple of years, the technology was there to do basic automation. And I think over the next 12 to 24 months, you're going to see just massive step changes as we've seen every 12 to 24 months. And I think that you're going to see that Harvey or Legora sort of company in accounting that becomes like a gold standard that people are like, oh, we just need to have this product because it's saving us so much time. Whereas the historical products just weren't saving enough time for the accountants for them to come and say, hey, I'm going to retrain all of my teams and I'm going to cut everything over. It felt incremental compared to what was out there, not revolutionary. And I think in the next 12 to 24 months, you'll start to see those revolutionary platforms.
But do you think like in the accounting space, we'll have 1 to 2, like the big ones and then everyone else? Or because the market, there's so many layers to like accounting, we'll have each category will have their own?
I think it's extremely unlikely that the same person is going to win audit and tax. I think the workflows are very, very different. And, we're very focused on tax workflows today. And, if you look across the different parts of accounting, I think there will be different solutions that are in that. Long term, though, I do think that like most technology markets, you will see a couple of companies that have disproportionately large market share.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'll open this up to the group. I want to understand. So you guys have not like CPAs or EAs, don't have the credentials, but you are building in the space. How was that challenge like selling to accounting professional and building that trust coming in initially?
It's been interesting because I think there's been a lot of trust broken among CPAs, between CPAs and vendors, because there's been a lot of big promises made to the industry and a lot of big promises broken. And so what I've found is, I think it's, for CPAs, a lot of times it's about building trust, which is just very simply doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, especially with your product, delivering on that. So, in a micro format, when you're selling to CPAs, when you say you're going to, deliver some sort of feature, actually following through on that. And I think the bar has been set pretty low in terms of like the standard for like just listening is more than a lot of the legacy players do. So making them feel heard and then earning that trust through doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it has been big for us.
Well, so something that's interesting, accounting traditionally has never been a large enough market to invest VC dollars into, which is, I think, a unique, interesting dynamic that I've been thinking a lot about. You needed the Dans of the world. So Dan has built Truss is a premier tech tool in the industry, and he's built it off the back of his capital. It's completely bootstrapped, and that's insane, right? And you needed high quality founders that are willing to build bootstrapped businesses in the accounting industry, because for a couple of reasons, VCs, accountants traditionally are slow to buy. You're also not, you're not taking on something like Blaze, reimagining how like we never had the ability to like go take on TR or take on these massive entities. And with this new wave of AI, you're allowing people like myself who can be really lean, and we're only focused on the accounting industry. I know Dan has built an amazing business focusing on the accounting industry. Blaze is tackling a massive problem. For me, client intelligence, communication intelligence, very powerful, but also very, it is a niche within a niche, right? We are for accounting firms, and not just accounting firms. We are for accounting firms that only service, like, talk to their clients. If you're a complete compliance shop, Truss can crush it for you, but you have no use for Ping. If you're not talking to your clients, there's no reason to use us. And so when I think about building for the industry, what's happened is, because of AI and because of these markets allowing people like myself to come in and be pretty lean and handle really niche issues in the industry, the market has actually responded, I would say, in a very untraditional way. I mean, Dan, how long have you been building Truss now?
A little over 4 years now.
So you've seen 4 years ago, knocking an accountant's door was like, who are you? No, I'm not interested. Is that fair?
100%. Yeah. And it's been amazing to see. I mean, when I mentioned that, accountants didn't get a lot of love. And when I first started, there was very little in the space, very little happening. And there's been this Cambrian explosion over the last few years of all these AI companies serving the space with VC money, taking a great interest in what's going on here.
But I think it's because, first, you don't need, like, accountants are willing to buy now. Like, before, you'd have to be in the market for 3 to 4 years to do anything. And accountants still, there's hesitancy, and rightfully so. You're dealing with, Blaze mentioned Legora. There's no Harvey, there's no Legora, there's no tool yet. Now there's a lot of money getting spent to build those things, right? But traditionally there hasn't been, because it requires a lot of trust and a lot of exactness. So since we're talking to accountants and the people listening to this podcast, there has never been a time where there's been more energy, time, and money getting built for accounting firms ever in the history of mankind. It's insane. The amount of founders that are popping up and saying, I can solve this super niche issue for an accounting firm that has never been thought about, that accountants like banging their head across, on the table every single day. They have to go in and click 30 times just to pull one report, or they have to, Bizora does a great job of going through and like, going and researching. Historically there's books of textbooks of things. And let me tell you, as a college dropout, I can't tell you how I've opened maybe this many college textbooks. That's less than 10 for those that are, this is just audio. So this is such an exciting time to be in the industry, to be building tech for this industry, for being an accountant in this industry. You have really capable people that traditionally would have said, I'm okay. Dan has built an amazing product and has grinded more than people can even understand what he's been able to do by building a product in this industry before, like, the unlock. And it's amazing. And now he's reaping the rewards of it. But now he's opened the path for people, schmucks like myself, to come in and be able to participate. So I don't even know if that answers your question.
Adding on to what Camden's saying, I think there's like a confluence of forces that are going on right now as well that I think not super well understood by everyone. Is that, like, you've got AI, which is just good at these things, but you've also there was no private equity in the accounting space before November 2021. And so traditionally you had these partnerships where if they bought technology, that was taking out of the partner's wages. And so there's been this huge influx of private equity money that's come into this industry. And that's also, with the coupling of AI, driving a lot of the buying behavior that is happening in this industry, and also the investment capital that's coming in with those tailwinds behind it.
What's interesting is, I'll add on, piggyback on that to say that even the firms that aren't taking PE investment are being heavily influenced watching these firms that have been taking PE investment, and PE is coming in and, changing the way these firms operate, and other firms are taking notice and saying, is there a reason we aren't operating our business that way? And so, yeah, it's affecting the industry in a, in kind of a exponential effect.
Okay, so the other part is like for Blaze, like if you were a VC, does accounting provide the same level of returns for a VC as like the other verticals would in terms of like the market?
I think historically it has been more challenging just because it was when the cloud came along or when mobile came along, which were the two sort of big platform shifts that we saw before AI, it didn't drastically change the product experience for this underlying consumer, right? You know, because they're mostly using tax engines, and whether it moved to the cloud or it didn't drastically change how they did their work, and it didn't drastically speed up how long it took them to do things. AI is very different, where like it can drastically change those workflows and it can deliver ROIs that are much higher than just moving that software to the cloud could deliver. And for certain things, moving to the cloud delivered massive ROIs, but in this particular industry, it wasn't the same. And so I think that the lack of switching in buying behavior historically has meant that that was hard, but also AI has an opportunity to just have huge ROIs of instead of offshoring, you could use something like AI. And so, you know, if you can get a 24 hours a day, 7-day a week, always on offshoring resource in the form of AI, that you can have just a much, much bigger market and a much, much bigger outcome than what we had seen historically. And so I think that the interest here is very high because people think the outcomes could be a lot bigger, and the product quality and things that can be delivered are much, much better.
And then, Dan, as you were like initially, so let's say 4 years ago when you were talking to these like firms, you were like explaining to them, okay, why you should adopt technology. How did that change from 4 years ago to now? And like what does your pitch even change to when you go into a new firm that just wants to like start adopting technology and they don't even know where to start?
Yeah, I would say the main change is that when we kind of started building at a really special moment in time at the end of 2022, ChatGPT had just come out and LLMs were still, you know, nobody really knew what we had yet. They were just starting to discover that. And we had the luxury of being able to build our product AI first, right? And when I say AI, I mean like this new modern LLM kind of paradigm. And so when we started building, it was still taboo to build, you know, these things were, and rightfully so, because they were very much insecure, right? They were, everything was feeding back into the models. And so, you know, we started building with these paradigms back when it was still taboo because we didn't have users yet at the, you know, back in 2022. And so just, you know, a couple users and so I would say the big difference is the attitude towards AI. It's shifted from this very much skeptical and leery of AI as being, you know, a huge security threat, a big unknown, to now boards and, you know, committees, technology committees and all this. There's an expectation. They're asking, what are you doing with AI? Everybody is asking the question, how do I practically apply AI in my firm so that it actually brings ROI, so it actually makes impact, right? And so there's this imperative, there's this mandate that is there now that everybody's asking this question. It's night and day from back in 2023 when we first started selling. And, you know, it did not behoove us to tell everybody, we did not lead with, yeah, we're using LLMs under the hood to do all this document processing, right? And so that's been probably the biggest shift that I've seen.
Interesting. And now, and you guys also started with down market and like outside the top 500, and now you're like in the top 500 too, and like in very some of the biggest firms. Like how does that conversation change? How does the implementation? Do you think the smaller firms are moving faster? They're implementing a lot more AI faster, and it's giving them the same advantage as the bigger firms now?
They are certainly different. I would say in terms of speed, I've actually been pleasantly surprised as we've been working with top 100 firms, you know, some of the largest firms, that there's, as I mentioned, there's these mandates coming from, you know, whether that, if they're publicly traded, you know, coming from investors, coming from, you know, the partners, coming from their boards, saying that you need to apply the, you know, you figure out how to get AI in here and working for us. And so I've actually been pleasantly surprised to find that I think the industry, the zeitgeist right now is very much forward thinking, even at the highest levels. And so, you know, while a large firm is never going to move as fast as a smaller firm, you know, be able to make decisions at the same speed, I would say you know, they haven't been lagging too far behind, you know, the smaller firms. So
what's question for like all three of you, like if you could only focus on one problem right now over the next like 6 to 12 months, for the products that you're building, what would it be and why would that be the problem that you're trying to solve?
For me, it would be 100% accuracy in all document processing. No one has really gotten close to that across all of the range of documents that can potentially come into an accounting firm. People have gotten close on certain documents, people have gotten all the way there on some documents, but being able to go to 100% on everything. I've always believed that like Harvey and Lagorum for this industry will be when you can drop any document at all in and they process perfectly through to a tax engine. You never have to worry or check them. That's going to be the biggest unlock in time savings for accountants, and that's when I think a product's going to go supersonic in this industry.
Helping firms drive more revenue is our focus. How can we find upsell and cross-sell opportunities in the conversations that they're having with their clients? I mean, in this world of advisory, there's a lot of things that can be done, and some things are known, some things are unknown. And when I say unknown, I'm unknown to the firm. Maybe they don't understand how to stand up a SALT practice, or they don't understand how to offer different types of, quote, advisory products or advisory services to their clients. And we're just going to be pretty focused on helping drive as much revenue as we can for firms.
For Truss, we're kind of entering phase 2 of our development. Phase 1 was all about freeing accountants from that compliance workload, right? And actually, partnership, for instance, with Byron is a part of that, right? First we have to free them from the compliance. We can't just say, go do more advisory work, right? Because they are drowning in the compliance work, drowning in the tedium. That's phase 1. And now that we've successfully matured a product that is freeing up insane amounts of time for these firms, now the question is, what do we do at that time? And we all know that the answer, the industry, I think, has embraced the idea of that we need to be filling that time not with more 1040s and more compliance work, but with more advisory. We need to fundamentally shift the model, fundamentally shift how we're investing our time. And that's where our partnerships with like Bizora, right? Our partnerships with Ping, partnerships with Kintsugi, that's where these are coming in. And phase 2 for us is about, we can't just, again, be hand wavy about it and say, okay, now be free, go do advisory, right? Because there aren't great tools that are helping firms identify those opportunities and execute on those new service lines for their clients. And so that's where Bizora is going to come in. Bizora is really a key partnership for us that we're going to be prioritizing this year. We've been working with Ping. Ping is helping us to unlock, bring in more context and surface those advisory opportunities so that way they know, what things that they can offer to their clients. And so in summary, phase 2 for us is about empowering advisory for these firms and making it not just saying, in general, what does advisory even mean, right? Like helping, make those opportunities tangible and actionable for our firms.
Yeah. And also I like how in our space right now, we're not moving into we're dominating one specific vertical of each side because it's so complicated and so hard to be really good at the thing that you're doing. And then moving into that and doing the partnership route.
I couldn't agree more with that comment, Adam. That's why we're not trying to own the client portal piece. We're not trying to own the delivery piece. All these things that Dan and Truss are amazing at. And then we need up-to-date tax research for our product. So we partner with Bizora because we think it's amazing tax research that we can get through an API or an MCP server, and trying to partner with other people to make your product better or work within the customer's existing tech stack. Because no one wants you to go in and say, hey, take every single thing out and use my product and you're going to solve their problem. They want you to come and work with the other things that they have. They don't want to rip out their customer client portal again and those sorts of tedious things for the company and the client.
As we towards the end of the podcast, so what do you guys want to tell the listeners any new product features you guys are coming out with, really excited about, and then other conferences you're going to be at, and where can they find you?
Well, I'll be at Bridging the Gap next week. It's going to be a party. So if anybody's going there, we're going to a number of different conferences, a number of different alliance groups. We're just trying to keep up with Truss and their event team is really what we're trying to do. But yeah, we'll be at Digital, CPA, we'll be at Connect. Yeah, if it's a conference where there's accountants meeting, we're excited to be there.
Okay, and how do people reach out to Ping?
You can come connect with me on LinkedIn. It's one of my favorite ways to connect with folks, or you can go straight to pingassistant.com. We give everybody a 2-week free trial. Come test out some of the cool stuff we're building.
So Truss is going to be at the, let's see, Aprio Alliance Forum, the BDO area meetings. We attend most, if not all of those. Boomer Circle Summit, CP America, National Tax Conference, Digital CPA, PASBA. So we should be at most of the conferences. Look for our team there. You can find, if you want to reach out to me, I'm the worst millennial ever. I don't do a ton on social media. I'm taking my notes here from Adam and Camden here, but I'm on LinkedIn is the the place that you might find me. My last name is very uniquely spelled, so if you search for Dan Pinkous, Pinkous, then you'll find me there. If you want to go to our website, it's gettruss.io. That's GETTRUSS.io.
I really want to see the budget for like your marketing and conference travel.
It's pitiful. It's pitiful.
I'm rapidly trying to keep up and go to all the conferences Dan's going to, but you'll find us at Aprio Alliance, Digital CPA, CPA Practice Advisor Growth. I'm sure I'm missing a couple of others in there. And you can find us at usebyron.com, which is USEBYRON. And yeah, we'd love you can schedule us on the website. You can look me up on LinkedIn. I'll probably reply to you there as well. My name is Blaze O'Byrne, as insane as that is, but you're probably pretty easy to find generally. So if you look me up there, I'm happy to connect and love to be in touch.
One last question. Why the name Byron when you guys picked it? It's a like how
Byron Bay, my friend, Byron Bay. No, if you've ever tried to name a company, which everyone on this call has, you realize how incredibly difficult it is because it's not that hard to come up with a name you like. It's incredibly hard to come up with a name that you like and that is available and that the website's available and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Byron Bay coffee book on my table and I was looking at it and I was like, I wonder if we could do it with that. But the reason, as you know, we had a different name before and we were called Acacia. The Canopy CEO was on a call with me and he's like, Acacia listed all these companies with A. And he goes, I can't keep any of you guys straight. You're all doing some sort of tax compliance thing. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty damning site that I should probably change the name to something a little.
Okay,
so it had nothing to do with your last name being spelled Byrn.
Nothing. I didn't even think of it at the time, and then I was like, it seems like I named the company after myself, and no, that was, if I thought of that, it might have got nixed.
I lived in Byron Bay for a little bit there, Blaze, so it's fun.
Now you understand, right? If you've been there, you're like, it's one of the nicest places in the world.
It's legit. It's very legit.
Thank you so much, guys, for coming on to the podcast. I really enjoyed talking with you guys, and as always, thank you to the audience for listening on this. You can catch them on their websites. And also the many conferences we will all be at. All right, thank you so much. Have a good day.
Yeah. Brews.